Welcome. I'm Alice Alicia Jones, and this is another one of my Living Consciously videos that I produce every single Friday at 1 p.m. I am blessed because my guides continue to filter through me the messages that I'm supposed to bring forward. And fortunately, I have an entire cabinet filled with speeches. I've given about 150 speeches, maybe 200 to Rays of Healing that are all documented and are in my file cabinet. And thanks to the fact that my secretary was with me in person for a whole year, she is one of the reasons why my file cabinet is as organized as it is, because she organized it. Up to that point, I had put my speeches in several places, and they she just did a magnificent job. Today's topic is we continue with living consciously, but the theme is that you are healing through your higher self. It's basically becoming your higher self through the different facets, the different 12 steps that are brought forward. And right now, I spent all of last week on forgiveness. That was step number 6. This is step number 7, relinquishing fear and all its companions. A Course in Miracles makes it very clear to us that there are only 2 emotions that live on this planet: love and fear. If it doesn't come from love, it comes from fear. It doesn't matter what the title of the emotion is. And it could be rage, it could be anger, it could be jealousy, it could be envy, it could be bitterness, uh, could be uncertainty, could be anything that you have out there that you're feeling that absolutely does not serve you. And I know when I first started my journey, my spiritual journey, I always thought that I was such, oh God, what am I going to say? How am I going to say this? A loving, giving, kind, generous, altruistic person. I never really looked at the shadow aspects of myself and never really looked at the fact that certain incidences caused me to fly into rage. And I could say, like everybody else does, you made me do it. This is a result. My reaction is because of the way you acted. That's the way typically um, the society speaks in our culture. But effectively, I had to face up to the fact that if I was flying into a rage, this was on me. I had to own that. I had to recognize that that was an emotion that lived inside of me. I don't care how far down it was buried, it lived inside of me, and certain things would trigger it. And whether I would accept that for myself or not, eventually I had to, because I was interested in doing only one thing, and that was to clearing. I wanted to clear out every single thing that was stuck in me and everything that I had that I couldn't, uh, that I didn't feel I wanted to hold on to. So there is an exercise that I do. It's called release and hold. I would go down a whole list of negative items and then decide, after I thought about them for a moment or two, did I want to continue holding on to them? Did I find there was some benefit for me to hold on to them, or would I let them go? Could I release them? And so it was really interesting that that exercise helped me clear out parts of my shadow. I never really liked the word shadow. I never really worked with the word shadow. But effectively, I know other healers do. And I think a lot of people recognize that the shadow is nothing more than parts of yourself that is kind of hidden underneath, and and only come out at certain times. Certain triggers are going to cause you to release a shadowed part of yourself. I'm a daily reader of Carolyn Hack's. She's an advice columnist in the Washington Post. And I know there are times, most of the time, I agree with her. I would say 98% of the time, I agree with her advice. Once in a while, I don't. But she does not mince words. She basically backs you up against a wall and says, okay, look at it this way. Do you have to leave him? Yes. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Do you have to stand up to your mother? Yes. You can't just tiptoe around certain people in the hopes of not arousing their ire in order for them to, um, let's say, not make waves for you. You cannot do that. And effectively, do you want to face their ire? No. Does anybody want to face somebody else's irateness? No. But most of the time, when we try to tiptoe around somebody, we are the ones who pay the dearest price, because effectively we are squashing back our feelings. We are not going to be truthful to ourselves. And there is a passage in A Course in Miracles that basically says you fly into rage when you say what you do not mean, or you mean what you do not say. And so, what's the antidote to that? Say what you and mean what you say. And this does not mean that you have to be ugly in the process. But if you know you're being gaslighted by someone in your relationship, could be a spouse, could be a lover, could be a sibling, could be a parent. If you're being gaslighted, and I can't imagine that anybody at this point doesn't know what gaslighting means. There is a movie, I think from 1939. I absolutely recommend that you called Gaslighting, and I recommend that you just rent it, and because it will explain it better than anything else out there. And because it's a term right now with all the narcissistic behavior that's out there and the lies that are being told out there that people are believing, and people are actually changing laws because of these lies. So effectively, you really have to understand that if you're being gaslighted, You have to. It's your responsibility to stand up to that. And I know that effectively releasing fear and all its companions is part of our ascension process. When this talk, when you stop to think, this is a 12-step program for becoming part of your higher self. What does that mean? It's like you have to identify and you have to become one with the part of you that is one with God, which is a pretty tall order because most of us don't have anything inside of us that feels that we're capable of that. Most of us just subscribe to our littleness, and that is not effectively what God wants. That's not what the Christ consciousness wants. That is not what we is expected of us at this moment in time. Tall order, but we can do it. We can absolutely do it. And so, like I said, if it didn't come from love, it comes from fear. And you know yourself what comes from love: tenderness, gentleness, mercy, gratitude, benevolence. All the virtues in your crown come from love. And so, effectively, take, I must love that word. I seem to say it a lot. But anyway, I'm going to forgive myself for maybe overusing a word that I absolutely love. But just know that anything that aligns you with fear is something that's going to have to be gotten rid of. You're going to have to move through it. And I know myself, when I reflected back on my life, that 85 to 95% of what I so feared did not come true. But the items that did come true, I was so afraid of the fact that we were going to lose a real estate company. We did. We had to close the doors. We had to let 16 agents go. We weren't making enough money. Rates, that was the 80s. Rates were up to 17%. No one can imagine that today. I once had an appointment in before this young couple, and I'm trying to tell them that 13% is a heck of a good rate in contrast to the 17% that we had to cope with for the previous 6 months. And and when I think back on that, I think that took a lot of guts, but I had to do it. I was in full-time real estate at the time. So, did our company fold? Absolutely. It folded, but we held on to the property management. And the property management is what pulled us through our lowest ebb. Our lowest ebb became when we virtually had no income, $4,000 a month in expenses, $400 a month from our property management. And I, again, I think back on those years and I think that how did we do it? And I remember a woman on the Oprah show when she had just been a victim of Katrina, the hurricane that ravaged New Orleans. She said, I learned I could live with nothing. And I myself just recently have agreed to um, evaluate scholarship applications for Wells Mountain. This is my daughter in law's father, who has this amazing charitable organization that where he funds the schooling costs for mainly people, some people in the Middle East, but mainly Africa. And the last applicant that I just reviewed, when I looked at his credentials and I looked and I read his letter of purpose, it brought tears to my eyes because it said, his letter stated that his father, along with 7 siblings, along with 3 members of the extended family, so 11 of them, had to leave 3 refugee camps in 3 different countries, in 3 different countries, because the refugee camps were overrun by rebels from the neighboring area. And they had less than nothing. They were absolutely destitute, even surviving a day to day existence. And yet, somehow, that father found a program called Home for the Needy, which was operating in Africa, and enrolled his son in schooling there. His son is now has matriculated through the bachelor's degree level and is on his way to medical school. But the Home for the Needy has also run out of funds because of COVID. So I read, and his isn't the only one that I've read that is equally as heartbreaking. But as I read that, I think your problems are really not as bad as what other people have gone through. They just aren't. So give a little bit of perspective every time that you feel you're running into something that is unsolvable. And don't feel as if you absolutely have to crumble or be crushed by the problem at hand. Because, in again, against what other people have to, what they have to do to survive, we, all of us, live in a lap of luxury. I can remember one statement once that I read. They said, if all the wealth in the world was reduced to 100 people, uh, everything was reduced to 100 people, 6 of them would be wealthy, and all 6 would be living in the United States. So that just gives us a little different perspective on our problems. Um, if you don't know where your next meal is coming from, somehow or other, all I can suggest is pray, because prayers have gotten me through the lowest ebbs of my life. And prayers have always moved me forward and always given me hope that solution was around the corner. So let's see what else I wanted to say is okay. I think that's it for line number 7, principle number 7, and I'm going to move on to principle number 8. I don't have a lot of time left, but this is honoring all life. I am willing to honor all life, even the smallest animal, vegetable, and mineral, as seen or unseen, as part of all that is. And one of the, I'm pretty sure I've already shared this, but I'm going to share it again. One of the times where I was asked to go into a past life, and I am in meditation, and all of a sudden, all I can do is just feel myself moving backwards and forwards as if I'm in the ocean. And I look around me and I realize I am a drop of the ocean. That's what I was. And and I shared that. And another woman who was in the same class I was in said, "Oh my God, I felt the same thing, but I didn't dare say it. I didn't know if anybody would believe me." Well, I've had enough mystical experiences to know that anything is possible. So I do not challenge anything. I don't um, make anything a uh, an unbelievable happening in my life, including my fairies messing with my possessions. A month ago, I lost my glasses. Well, I have three pairs of glasses. I keep one in the car, I keep one at the end table next to the TV stand, and or the one that where you have all our remotes on, and I keep one on the bar in the kitchen that I grab when I go outside. And that way, no matter what I'm doing, I have a pair of glasses. Well, the one on the bar disappeared, absolutely disappeared. Could not find it, didn't matter where I looked. Um, Really mystified me because I kept thinking, I'm so good about putting my glasses away as soon as I am finished with them because I, over the years, have always bought 2 pairs of glasses, and this time I had to buy 2 rounds of 2 in order to get the 3. I've lost 1 and held on to 1, and like I said, I was just mystified as to where they were, but they, appeared of 2 days ago on the other end table at the other end of the couch, and not only are they sitting there, the little chamois cloth that I had inside the glasses that was also missing was with them. 1 month they're missing, and all of a sudden they're back again. So it's just amazing to me how I am able to bring to manifest things back because basically I tell the fairies, that's mine. That does not belong to you. That is mine, and kindly they will bring it back. But what does that have to do with honoring the smallest of and lowest things? There is a law that we all subscribe to as humans, and it is the law of interconvertibility. And interconvertibility simply means that we are animal, vegetable, and mineral, as well as human. So we decide what it is that we are. And in like I said, in one case, I was a drop of the ocean. In another case, and she had us do the same exercise a little bit later. This time I'm burning up. All I can feel is amazing intense heat. And the heat just simply makes me feel like I'm frying. And again, I look around and I see I'm a grain of sand on the beach. So effectively, that day when I was coming home from the class, because it was about maybe 10 miles from where I live, I started to look at all the trees and look at all the different leaves and the shades of green that were on the leaves. And I thought, I wonder who they are, because that's what it is. It could be a life that has chosen to be a leaf, but also in a different lifetime has chosen to be a human. So, anyway, let's see what else I want to say. Um, there's one book out there. I just want to end this with because I know I'm going to up to 24 minutes. There's one book out there, very hard to find, but if you can, it's called The Return of the Dove, and I think it was published in the 80s and 90s, and the last couple times that I've looked, it's out of print, but it's by Virginia Essene, and she channeled Jesus. and it talks about the 12 universes, including the one in miniature. The one in miniature is what the fairy kingdom belongs to. But I never forgot that. And the sad thing is that I cannot remember what the other 12 universes are, but I remember this statement from Jesus. He said, when I came 2,000 years ago, he said, I came and I brought together 12 disciples. And my intent was to show you that I, as the leader, was the 13th. So effectively, you are birthing the 13th universe. And I feel personally that's what ascension is all about. That we are stepping into a vibrational plane that is causing us to get to a higher level and causing us to shed all of the resistance that we have to keep holding on to the stuff that no longer serves us. I really do believe that. And I know I'm way past time, but I thank you for watching. One of these days, I'll figure out a way on how to make this interactive. I don't know how to do that yet. So, and I'll leave times for questions and answers afterwards. Right now, I absolutely don't know how to do that, so I'm going to have to figure that out. But I thank you, I bless you, and I hope to see you next week. Thank you.